Here we are,
Okay.
episode 9 of the podcast, and I'm excited to introduce my next guest, the Queen of New York herself, Britani Graver. How's it
Hello.
going?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. It was a cold morning, waking up, walking the dog in the rain. It's okay.
I kind of like the rain. I feel like it's kind of dreary, which is sad, but I don't know. There's something about it that I really like.
Just in general, or like today's rain specifically?
Just in general, I've always liked rain. Like this was like very random, but when I used to dance at my home studio, like back in Lehighton, anytime it would rain on like a Saturday morning when I was there, I was always like, I love the rain. It's so awesome. And then like I don't know, it like became this thing that I just like loved.
Okay. Okay. This rain wasn't like downpouring unbearable. Like I actually liked it in the sense of like it was warm, like it
Yeah.
wasn't like cold freezing rain. My
Mhm.
my dog of course didn't like it, but I liked it to an extent.
Yes.
So it's okay. But yeah, that's how my morning's going. So you're home right now, correct?
I am home, yes, in my like home bedroom, which is Harry Pottered out. So, yeah.
Awesome. And okay, so Harry Potter, have you read all the books and or watched all the movies?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I am a big fan, and one of my favorite things to do, which probably people actually don't know, is collect Harry Potter Legos. So,
Okay.
in my room, there are over the years many sets of Harry Potter Legos, and also like wands. Like you can't see it, but this poster over here is like a Deathly Hallows poster, and then behind me on the door is like a rack of wands. Weird, but I love it.
Beautiful. Now, favorite movie out of all the Harry Potters?
That's so hard. I feel like I really like Prisoner of Azkaban,
Okay.
but I also love the last Deathly Hallows movie. So those two are like tied, I think, for me.
Last Deathly Hollows for me is I think that's what takes it for me.
So good. So good.
For me. Once I find more time in my life. So I haven't read any of the books yet, but I really want to. So now that I've watched all the movies, I want to harshly criticize it and compare it to how good the books are. So
Well,
gotta get on
if
this.
you ever want to borrow them, let me know because I have all of them. And at like every year, they also now have started releasing, or it's every other year now, they started to release the books, but they're illustrated. So I also have the illustrated versions if you want those too.
Okay. Perfect. I will for sure let you know because I'm big on not being cheap, but
Mhm.
being cheap. So if I can save that money, that's great.
Yeah.
So, that's great.
And
Perfect.
I'm big on lending books out, so whatever you want.
That's great. But aside from all that, I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank
If
you.
you all heard, I mentioned the Queen of New York because Brit herself is a literal Queen of New York. She has been there a bunch of times, and that is going to be our main focus as to why I brought her on today. But not only has she been places inside the country, she's also been places outside of the country, specifically also Mexico and Mexico, Jamaica, and France. And I would love to specifically talk about France today as well. But wherever we go is wherever we go, which is the most beautiful part about this podcast. So to start out, let's start off with the important reason, New York. Now, I remember during my time in college, I always saw Instagram photos of like if you weren't in one place in New York, you were in the next, and
Yeah.
I loved it. I thought it was so cool the diversity of like the different photos and the different places you were, whether it was Central Park or any other place in New York I didn't recognize or know, just because I've only been there 3 times.
Mhm.
So where does that draw come from? Where did that love for New York come from, and how did that begin per se?
So when people ask me this question, I sometimes probably don't know the exact answer, but when I was younger, like when I think about it, this is where my mind goes. When I was younger, every Christmas, me, my mom, my grandparents, and I remember my cousin, who I'm very close with, every Christmas we would go up and do a bus trip and we would see the Radio City Rockettes. This is when I was like anywhere from like 5 to like 9 every year around that time point. And then always remember loving it, always remember it being a good time, but we took a break off of it for probably like 3 or 4 years. And during that time, I think Broadway started to call to me a little bit more. And I remember um, I had a music class when I was it was either fifth or sixth grade, and we watched Newsies, and I was obsessed, like completely obsessed, loved everything about Newsies, like wanted to be a newsie myself. And around that time, Newsies came to Broadway in New York City, and I I mean, I must have gone on about it enough that convinced my mom for like a Christmas present or something to buy me tickets. And we got to see Newsies on Broadway. And from that moment on, I just fell in love. Like there was no going back for me. It was kind of like, this is where I am called to. Like I love this place. I myself love to dance, and then mix that with the Broadway aspect of it. I was like, there is just so much talent that I personally feel you cannot find anywhere else that is so high quality, bringing their A game every single time. Like, and then that's where I remember it being, like, starting really there, but then like transitioning into, as I continued to go more and more and more, like falling in love with the fact that every time I go, there's so many people. And to me, I look at all of these people and I'm like, they all have their own individual story and they're all bustling off to like their next appointment or their next whatever it may be. And that is so inspiring to me that I don't know, there's no place like it.
There isn't. There
Yeah.
isn't. And I haven't like traveled I've traveled more outside of the country than I have in the country. But
Mhm.
the vibe of New York is, you can't describe it in
Yeah.
the sense of like Times Square, everybody's trying to get somewhere.
Yeah.
And just all around that whole area of New York City, people
Mhm.
are constantly busy. It's
Right.
like the nickname, they don't sleep. They literally don't.
Yeah.
Because if the people that are sleeping, there's just as many people that aren't because they're working at that time.
Yeah.
So I remember when you did that trip for New York, like when you planned that for our senior year
Mhm.
for the bus, that was neat because that was the first time I got to go to New York just to go.
Mhm.
Each other time I had to go for family, but it was neat to like explore it and find stuff and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So shout out to you for doing that. That was fun. And when you go to New York, just
Mhm.
in general, whenever you go, um, tell us about like some things you look forward to, just in general, to when you get to go to New York.
Typically, it is Broadway. Obviously, it's been closed for the last year, which is really sad, but almost any time that I go and I don't have a specific plan, I try to somehow incorporate a Broadway show, and it's really easy to do that actually affordably. I have found out over the years, and to do it also last minute. Like, I think when I was younger and my mom was primarily buying all of the Broadway tickets, like she would plan the trips like months in advance versus like, it's like sometimes I just get like that itch to be like, I have to go, and then I'm like, let's just go see the show, or let's just go do this or whatever. Like, I don't know.
But now you got the dinero, so you can buy those tickets. So that's you can buy tickets here and there. You can buy
Yeah.
tickets here and there. So what Broadway shows have really stood out for you when you've been to New York?
I hate to say Hamilton, but Hamilton 100% back in 2016, I think, was when it was really starting to take off. And again, like it's kind of like a similar to the Newsies thing, like became obsessed with Newsies. Like that was all I talked about for like 2 years. Same thing with Hamilton. Like I found Hamilton, fell in absolute love with it. Like, and my mom just so happened to surprise me with tickets. And one of the shows so I've seen it twice.
Yeah.
And the first time I saw it was with half of the original Broadway cast. It was right after like Lin-Manuel was leaving and all of them, but I still
Mhm.
did get to see it with half of the original Broadway cast. And I just remember like that one was so special because it was like that camaraderie that they obviously had and like the original people. It was just amazing. Like I do compare them the second time I saw it to that time, unfortunately. Like the second time was still amazing, 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 but just not quite the same energy
Yep.
as the first time. I remember like literally I don't know if you know anything about Hamilton, but
I do. Yeah. We'll talk about it. Yeah.
that first song when like they step out, the first person steps out and it's dark and then it's just the spotlight on them, like I started to cry. I was like, oh my god, like I couldn't believe like I was actually in the room that they were performing this amazing musical, and I was like, I need to stop. I know people paid a lot of money for this. I need to like get it together. So yeah, that was a really big one. Another really, this is an odd answer, would be A Christmas Story. They made that a musical, and we had gone to see that one of the Christmases. It was at Madison Square Garden, and we saw it because that's one of my grandfather's favorite movies. And I was like, going into it, I was like, this is gonna be so lame. I was like, I don't know anything about this. And then I remember like leaving, I was like very impressed by what they did with it, and I was like very into that by the end of it. Um, sure there are others. Again, Newsies is like an obvious one, but also the prom. I got to see the prom um, specifically like 2 or 3 days before it went off Broadway, and it was during Pride that I actually got to see it. So that was a really, really cool experience too. But anyways.
Awesome. Helpless is actually my ringtone.
I love that.
Helpless is my ringtone. So, and it's funny when it goes off at work because
Yeah.
it's like it's Eliza's voice and all my coworkers. Why is that your ringtone? I think it's great. I was debating it was either going to be that or the one when the Schuyler sisters sing together. But I was like, Helpless is funnier because when people hear that, they're gonna like wonder what's going on.
Oh yeah,
So,
I would be like, what? I'd be like, okay, work, but what?
so yeah. Oh, I love Hamilton. So you mentioned Pride. So what is that? I can only imagine what that's like when in New York. So
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Go for it.
Pride is I've been to it twice, I believe. And it is obviously Pride is celebrated the month of June. And so one of the weekends in June, New York has a huge Pride festival. And I've only ever been on a Saturday, but that's the day where they do their whole parade down like the streets, and they also do like festivals. So one of the years I went, we kind of saw the parade, but we actually decided to go to the festival, which was kind of surprisingly cool because it was like all these different vendors and they were actually like handing out tons of free stuff, which was like, I don't know, it was just cool for some reason. Like, and everything is rainbow and amazing. And I just feel like I said, New York is a place of so many things, and I always feel inspired when I go there. But when I was there specifically for Pride, it is just so cool because everybody feels accepted and celebrated. And that's something that I love, like love. I have always felt that way about like the LGBTQ plus community. It's just people in general as well. I want everybody to always feel as included as possible and accepted, and like being a part of a place where this is happening feels amazing. And I mean, going back to when I got to see the prom, like that was just so cool because everybody was there to celebrate LGBTQ plus people. And like at the end of the musical, when like the two main girl characters they kiss, everybody's just like screaming, like everybody's like yes, like yelling, and it's just magical. Like I said, I've never been to a place where you just have so much energy, which is so like happy and beautiful. I guess I don't know, but it was awesome.
That's my college roommate. You remember Derek Burton? Do you? But just yeah, he invited me once to go. I forget. I just didn't end up going. But he always talked about it's just the adrenaline rush of being there.
Yeah.
It's just the adrenaline rush. He's like, it's not even like he's like people who aren't even LGBTQ just go because of how amazing it is, and it's wild. He says. So.
It's so cool. It's like I don't want to say like anything goes, but it's almost like that. Like you see people in all types of clothing, on like roller skates, on super crazy high heels, in sneakers, like crazy makeup, like crazy hair. I remember in the parade, there's like a part where they're all on motorcycles, and like there's another there was a float that like had RuPaul's Drag Race queens on it, which like to me is a really cool because I love RuPaul's Drag Race. I've also been to DragCon in New York City, but yeah, it's just like I said, it's just amazing, and it's like things you are obviously not going to see in a normal day, and to see it so celebrated. And I mean, maybe I've just been lucky. Obviously, on the weeks they've had it, it's always so sunshiny and like it's just fun. It's literally like I hate to just say, oh, it's just fun, but like that pretty much like encompasses it. Like it's just amazing.
Yep, a whole adrenaline rush of acceptance.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And so when I was in Peru, in Lima, so Lima's like Lima in Peru is the New York of America.
Yeah.
They once a year have their own Pride festival, and I didn't get to go to it unfortunately because I had like something going on that work weekend. But anybody who's a part of LGBTQ in our cohort of Peace Corps and anybody else who wanted to go, they said it was the most incredible experience of their life.
Yeah,
and not just like in Peru. Their life, because in South America sometimes like that it's a more conservative continent, so those ideals sometimes can be a little bit like difficult, but that part of the world in South America not just Lima, but also Colombia, Argentina, like all the bordering states come down, and like Lima is just flooded. It's just flooded, and it's like the most. They said it was incredible. Everything was free, food, shirts, like all they loved it.
Yeah.
So you can put that on your bucket list of goals, things to
That
accomplish.
actually honestly will probably make it, because that sounds amazing.
Yeah, I'll figure out the date of when that was. I can talk to people who did it, but they loved it, and it wasn't just like one day. It was like a whole week. It's like a whole week of just buck wild festivities.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
it's great. And like hotels get booked and everything. It's awesome. So I need to experience one as soon as all this comes to an end. This madness, but we're getting there. We're getting to that finish line. So in addition to all the really neat stuff that draws, so the Broadway shows, Pride festivals, just the appeal of New York, is there any places that have stood out for you? Because when I think of New York, I think of Central Park, I think of Madison Square Garden, I think of these tall skyscrapers, I think of like restaurants with entertainers. Well, you know New York. So is there any places that stand out to you in New York in particular?
I have a really weird one that I've taken people to, and they're like, I just don't get it. And I'm like, how can you not get it? Like, I love this place. It is called the Earth Room, and it is like, you would almost never know it existed unless you were looking for it. And it's like on a random street down in Soho, and you like have to like buzz in, and they once you're in, you just like go up these really narrow stairs. It's only like one story up, and it is literally a room filled with dirt. And I love it. I think it is like the coolest thing, because where else are you gonna see just like a room filled with dirt? I don't know. And it's like, I mean, obviously we know probably rent and things in New York is very expensive. So the fact that somebody's just renting out a gigantic apartment and filling it with soil is like, I just think it's amazing. You can't really do much, obviously. Once you get there, you pretty much just look at it and then leave. But that's a place that I always love to visit for some reason. But yeah.
How did you find out about that? I didn't know that was a thing.
So I actually had a friend who was he was studying in New York. He was studying at Pace, and I had gone to visit him on one of the ski trips to New York, and he actually showed it to me, and from that moment on, I've like been obsessed with this place. I was just like, this is awesome. But like I said, then I'll take some other people, and they're like, are you okay? But I love it.
Have you shown it to Seth?
I have.
And what was his beautiful reaction? I'm sure it was a great reaction.
He's like, he doesn't say anything about it. So I'm like, okay, well, what do you think? And he's like, it's nice. Like, and then he's like, all right, let's go. Like, and I'm like, no, I want to stay and look at it a little bit more. Like, I like linger. Like, I like at least want to stay there for like 10 minutes and just like look at the dirt. And he's like, we can go. Like, do something maybe a little bit more interesting. And I'm like, no.
People pay for this space.
It's free to go look at. Like, so I mean, why not just stand? I don't think you're like allowed to take pictures. You can find pictures online, but yeah, it's amazing.
It's like famous trees in certain countries, and it's just like any other tree.
Yeah.
And you go to look at it, and there's nothing different about it. It's just that landmark tree. And then like you observe it, it's like, oh, this is great, but there's nothing different. It's just a tree. However, this is dirt in New York in a room.
Yep, pretty much.
That's awesome. And to give context, for those who don't know, Seth is Britani's fiance. So we're talking about him a little bit, of course. But that's great. So in addition to the famous dirt room, where are your favorite places in regards to like photography? Like, because places that you like to take photos at, or just places that you think are the coolest to check out in New York, photo-wise.
One of my favorite places, just in general, both for photography and just like, it's almost weird. I almost like to people watch sometimes. Washington Square Park is like my favorite park in New York City, and I don't know if it's because of the beautiful arch or what it is, but I always feel like whenever I go there, there are either vendors or artists doing something like pretty cool that you can kind of just like watch again that I personally probably would have never seen had I not been there. Um, I also, so anyway, so you can take pictures by that arch, but you can also take it all around that area. But Soho in general, I think is just a beautiful area to take pictures because whether it even just be like in front of a really cool mural wall, or like you can find cobblestone streets, or which then you get the skyscrapers in the background. Um, cool cafes like there. I like to also take pictures like usually at like my recent most favorite thing to do, which obviously I haven't been able to do recently, but art exhibits. So and like interactive ones. So I've been to both the Color Factory and the Museum of Ice Cream, and like all throughout there are like tons of different rooms, and in each room is like a different type of interactive thing, which is awesome and provides for very good picture opportunities. So those are really cool too. And I think those have also been around the Soho area. Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Now, I just thought of this. This just came to my mind right away, and I feel like this is what the viewers want to know.
Mm-hmm.
New York pizza or Chicago pizza?
Well, I have to say New York. I've never had Chicago, but I would have to always say New York. No matter like any choice somebody gives me, I'm always going to say New York.
No matter what?
Yes.
Well, give Chicago like a try whenever you have the chance. Just humor me. And whenever you get the chance, whenever you get to go out on another fancy date with Seth,
yeah,
do Chicago pizza. What you know the difference, of course, right? It's a thick,
like the deep dish, right?
It's a deep dish, so it's like not the whole pan. It's like a deep dish, and it's like a pie-esque per se.
Okay.
So give it a try. I'm New York pizza,
right?
all the way. But Chicago pizza is amazing nonetheless. However, I think it might just be the East Coast in me.
Mm-hmm.
So just another fun tip that you should do that. You should do that. Now, when it comes to photography, I always thought your photos were always like, I don't know. I don't know how long you put into your photos, but I always thought your photos were really like picturesque and like Etsy worthy in the sense of like they were just always really, really good. Yeah. So artsy wise, so would you consider yourself like an art person in the sense of like you love to like look at art and like look into like not art history per se, but like the significance of it? And I feel like you are an artsy person when it comes to that kind of sense. So
yes, 100%. I think like my life confuses people a lot because I mean, for people who may not know, I am a scientist based in like career, but I think in my heart I would be an artist, whether that just be through dance or actual art. Like I'm not a good drawer, but when it comes to like painting and things like that, like I love it. And just being creative, like I don't know how people can't be creative. To me that's like the hardest thing not to do. So I feel like that's where a lot of like the pictures and the ideas that I have when I go to New York come from, because I just want to experience as much art as I possibly can. When I think of experiences that I've felt most fulfilled by, it's always when I've been at an art museum looking at some type of art, some type of fashion. Like I just feel so full when I do those things. But
awesome. And you definitely have an array of talents, because it's not just like the science background and being able to work hard and think critically, but also you are a dancer and you are very photo-esque and you're very smart, very driven, and you know what you're doing. So that's awesome. And I feel like that's where that New York persona fits, because if you live in New York, you're either super, super skilled in one specific craft, or you have an array of talents that have brought you there. And I feel like that's where you fit that realm. You have this array of talents that bring you to New York. And so I'm curious, I want to know this personally. Before you and Seth like officially started dating, I think it was around senior year or something like that, you were already in New York a bunch. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you went to New York, did you just you went on a bus, or you took your car and you went by yourself, or would you go sometimes with people, or was it a mix per se?
So a lot of times I actually go with my mom.
Okay.
It's like if I have these ideas, because I'm the type of person like when I get an idea, I like have to do it. And so a lot of times like I'll find either an art museum or a convention coming up and I'm like, I have to go. And if I can't scrounge up one of my friends to come with me, my mom's like right there to like, she's down for it. So usually I was going with my mom. But I did also go a few times by myself. I was working for a guy in New York for a little while, and like I would go up. I never drive. My mom won't allow me to drive to New York. So I always go on a bus. We come in through the Port Authority. But yeah, once I'm there, I'm not afraid of it at all. I know like when I was younger, I feel like my family was always like, no, don't go by yourself. But I don't know, to me, it's just another place. I'm like, it's just New York. Everything's fine. Everything's going to work out.
It has to. That's the only option.
Yeah.
People have things to do.
Right.
It's the only thing. But yeah, I feel like I've been to other big cities. New York's just another big city.
Yeah.
In my opinion. It's different in the sense of the name, the draw, the people who are there, more celebrities per se. But it's just been another big city that has a bunch of things going on. Now, one of the things I really wanted to ask you was, how do you find all these things to do in New York? Because I feel like when I first was going to New York, I was like, this is just another city. Like, this is just another city with like restaurants and okay, there's like the Twin Tower Memorial and there's like all those things, but it's just another city. But there are people like you who like you're making the most of and you're finding this stuff. So how do you find these things to do in New York, per se?
I guess it comes down to being creative and the fact that I love it there so much that I am like, obviously, to want to keep revisiting. I can't always go do the same stuff over and over again. It's also expensive if you're going to keep doing like certain things that are very, like if I were to go to one of the art museums every single time I went there, like that gets expensive. So it comes down to basically being creative. And if you love any place enough and you want to experience it for what it actually is, you start to kind of like do your own research. Sometimes I'm lucky and I'll like stumble across an ad because my phone knows that I'm obsessed, and it'll like tell me something that is like on its way to New York, and then that'll kind of like plant a seed. But a lot of times if I know I'm going for like a day, I don't want to just necessarily like do one thing because I know that's not going to fill up my entire day. So then if I get an idea, like for one time I was like, oh, I have a little bit of extra time. Let's see if I can do an escape room in New York. And then like I start looking into something like that. And then I'm like, I mean, an escape room is just an escape room, but I now found a place in New York that I could do it. So kind of like that, if that makes any sense. But yeah.
Awesome. When I was in Budapest, Hungary, I did the coolest escape room.
Yeah.
It was so cool. And it was like an escape room where like you felt like if you didn't finish it, like it was game over.
No.
like they would like turn up the heat and then like you were like sweating and then like there were also like mini booby traps and like things would fall. Like super intense. Like my anxiety shot through the roof after I finished that. But they did it like so it felt so real. And like it's those little things where like escape rooms in like bigger cities or like these really unknown like dirt rooms.
Yeah.
Like the small little things that people don't think about that really make you think like that's why this place is great. So
that also sounds amazing.
You would love it. You would love it. I think there were also people told me there were like a lot of escape rooms in France. There's escape rooms everywhere, but like the bigger cities, they have like these more like developed, intense, like heart pounding escape rooms.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, I feel like Seth would also be good at that too. Like he's an actual like a really good critically thinking engineer, so he would figure it out. He would figure it out.
That's where we would complement each other because he's definitely more of like the I have to logically make this make sense, and I'm like, no, let's just do it. Like let's just not even think about anything. Let's just go for it.
Just hit the trigger.
He's like, no, let's like reel you back in. I'm like.
It'll work somehow. Awesome. So New York is, of course, your vibe. It's what I think of as you're automatically the person I think of when I think of New York. Is there anything in New York that you know at the moment that you haven't done or that you haven't seen that you know you want to do or you know you want to see?
I know there are more Broadway shows that I would love to see. And I'm sure there's a few other art things that I haven't seen. So there's a place called Artec House, which I'm a little sad about because they were doing a Pantone Color of the Year exhibit, and I really wanted to go, but I think that has probably ended now. They're onto a new exhibit, which is totally awesome and like cool that they switch it up. But I wanted to see the Pantone Color of the Year one. anyways, but I would still definitely go to do that. And then I think there was another place that I was just thinking of. I've been to the Met before, but I actually, when I was there, I was only there to see, it was the year that they did like a whole, like they brought the, like when they have the Met Gala, they brought a lot of like the fashion and technology and they had that exhibit. So we had only gone to see that. But recently I saw that there were a lot of, not a lot, but a few Van Gogh paintings also in the Met, and I would love to see those. Van Gogh is one of my favorites. So that's another thing I think I would really like to do.
Okay. And I want to go back to Hamilton a little bit just because I love Hamilton. So,
Yeah.
who's your favorite person in the cast?
Okay, I love George Washington.
Okay. Okay.
Or should I say their actual name? Because that's Chris Jackson. I don't know.
No, like the character per se.
Got
character.
it. Yeah.
Character,
Love George Washington.
Awesome. This is cliche, but I'm just a big fan of Eliza just because I love the voice.
Yeah.
The voice itself I was like, oh my God, I'm in love. It was like the voice. And then she officially became my favorite character when on Jimmy Fallon. Did you see the helpless bit that they did on Jimmy Fallon?
I don't think I did. Or I might have, but I'm not remembering.
You would love it. So it was like mid quarantine, like in the thick of everything last year. He invited everybody on to do like a Zoom singing. Yeah, yep.
Then that I do know what you're talking about. Yes.
Yep. And then that, of course, she was like the main person singing "Helpless." So then that was the moment when I was like, "That's my new ringtone."
Oh, I love that.
I was like, "That's my new." And then that's also when she became my favorite character.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So I love Hamilton. It's one of my favorites. So.
It's literally. I mean, it's amazing. I think it's so cool that like they made an entire play about a founding father and like found a way to captivate like millions of people. Like that seems like that would never work, but it did. So it's pretty awesome to me, I think.
Creativity.
Yeah.
Creativity. And I feel like that describes New York in like a nutshell. Like this simple idea that sounds so dumb, but you make it work and you make money out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the creative entrepreneur of Lin-Manuel. I thought it was genius. I loved it.
This is random, but if anybody is a big Hamilton fan, I think it's closed right now because of everything going on, but a free thing to do is up in like the Uptown. They have his original house that like he lived in and everything that you can like actually go in and like see, which I did with my mom one of the times we were there. We were like, yeah, let's go look at it. And they can do like a little mini tour and like show like the areas. Like I think you can see like the living room, like his study. And I think Manuel actually was there at one point to write some of the musical. So I think that's cool. But anyways.
Awesome. And I'm a big fan of Jimmy Fallon in general. I love whenever he brings any of them on. I was like, oh, I'm watching this right now, like right away. My favorite was when he brought on Lin-Manuel, and he brought on I'm having a brain fart. The Schuyler sister, who's the main one, the Angelica. When she was casting, I never forgot her. When she was casting, she had to remember like a whole entire like mantra, like a whole entire bit, and then they told Lin-Manuel she has to do all this. This is what she was supposed to remember. He looked at them and he was upset. Like he was talking about Jimmy Fallon and he was upset. He's like, "You idiots! What? She's not going to remember all that. Like, there's no way. Like, she needs at least a month to be able to remember all this. How do you expect her to do that in 1 week?"
Yeah,
she nailed it. She nailed it within one. Like Lin-Manuel talked about how like I was so like taken back that she was able to do all that in 1 week, and it took me like a month to write all that, and she got it all within 1 day. Yeah. And he was like, "She's Angelica." Like she's it's like it's also like the inner workings of like how they do this, which makes me really like the Broadway as well. So for sure. Awesome. Well, we'll talk about New York a little bit more, of course, but that's everything per se that I really wanted to ask you about. You've also been out of the country a little bit, which is also something important to me on this show. So let's talk about what's out of the country. Where's your favorite place that you've been? Off the top of your head.
France. Paris,
Perfect.
France.
Perfect. And what did you go there for?
So this was like a year before we had gone. Like I said, when I get an idea, I'm like, there's no talking me out of it. So I told Seth, I was like, for Valentine's Day, we're going to Paris. Like, end of story. That's what's happening. And over the year, we basically planned it, and we went for a week, and it was amazing. And I am just so blessed when I think of the timing of it all, because we were literally there like probably 2 weeks before the world stopped. So again, just so grateful for that whole vacation. I can never speak highly enough about it, basically.
Awesome. Now, out of the two of you, who is the planner?
Me. Yes.
Now, does that include like dates, times, places we're going to, flights, buying tickets, hotels, all the stuff, or is there any like kind of like, does he have any part of that, or is it just you for each one?
If it's something that I really want to do, it's basically me. Because, like, I'm like, I have the ideas and I know I'm going to do really good at it. So I'm like, you just trust me and it'll be great. But when it comes to like Pennsylvania things, I feel like then he's more of the planner. And I like, if it's a date, I let him do that because it's only like a 1 day type thing. And I guess I can like relinquish enough control to let him have that. But yeah, it's usually when it comes down to like a big vacation and like actually planning what we're gonna do, 100% it's like me.
Okay, awesome. So tell us about some things you did in France. Of course, France. It's France. What did you get to see when you were there? Anything that stands out right away that you think about when you think of your time in France?
So I was telling you earlier that we were there for about 7 to 9 days, anywhere from that range. I'm actually not sure, but every day it was my goal to like do something. So literally from the moment we got there, like we dropped our bags off at like the hotel, and I was like, all right, let's go. And we were out already to go see the Arc de Triomphe, which I like. Same back to like the not Madison Square Garden, Washington Square Park. I don't know if I have like a weird thing for arcs or something, but I was like, I need to see this. So we got to see that, which I thought was like really beautiful and cool. And we also, on our first day, were at the Musée d'Orsay. I'm probably butchering these names. But again, with like the Van Gogh thing, like a lot of Impressionist art was there, and they had a whole Van Gogh section. I literally remember like wanting to like die and pass out. I was like the fact that I'm here staring at art that Van Gogh painted himself, I was like the ultimate fangirl. You would have thought like One Direction had gotten back together, and like I was like dying on the inside. But it was so cool. And then we also, one of my favorite parts was the like, like New York has like, this is how I picture it in my mind, so this could be totally wrong, but New York has like Manhattan, Brooklyn, like the different little like sub parts of New York City.
Right.
In my mind, like one of the sub parts of Paris was the like district of Montmartre. And that was also where we got to see Van Gogh's old apartment. We had a tour guide that day, and he was telling us things that I would have like never known, showed us statues that probably would have never stuck out to me. And then at the end of that day, we actually saw Moulin Rouge, which I thought was really cool. And then the day after that was Disneyland Paris. There we go.
Disneyland Paris.
Yes,
Disneyland
which
Paris.
is when I got engaged. So that was pretty exciting. But yeah, I mean, the whole trip, I could go on for literally forever for about it. Because like I said, every day was like a different like thing.
Yeah.
But it was just magical. Everything was awesome. Obsessed.
So mine is the proposal. You planned everything, essentially.
Yeah.
Nice.
Even like I like joke with stuff because like I went in, I'm telling you, I was like, there's no way I'm going to be engaged. I'm going to come back to work and I'm going to be so embarrassed because everybody was telling me, they were like, you're going to come back with a ring. And I was going to be like, I told you guys, like, it's not happening. And like, I joke with Seth, I'd say he didn't really know, like, when he was going to propose. He literally got the ring like days before we even left. Like, I think, like, I remember him telling me he like went to the jeweler and they were like, when do you need this? And he was like, in like a little less than a week. And they were like, you're like rushing this a little bit, buddy. Like, that's a little tight. And when I think about it, he must have been carrying the ring around with him to a few different places until I guess he decided it was the right opportunity to ask. Because I'm like, he definitely didn't know. Like, he 100% didn't have a straight up idea of like what place he was gonna do it, which like totally cool. I'm just happy it happened.
I'll know it when I see it. I'm
I'm
just I'm just imagining like his heart beating like the entire 4 days. It's just constant just fear. Oh my god.
And
I
it's
love it.
funny because I feel like I'm pretty observant, but I can also be turn a blind eye to things if I don't want to know about it. So it's kind of funny because on the day we went to Paris, obviously they have you go through security and stuff, and I had gone first. And he came after me and they stopped him, and I was so embarrassed. I was like, oh my god, why did they stop him? Because back to New York, this was years ago. We had gone to the Empire State Building and they stopped him because he didn't know that he couldn't be carrying a pocket knife with him. And I was like, oh my god, how do you not know these things? And so I'm thinking he has another pocket knife with him. I'm like, we're gonna get kicked out of Disneyland. This is gonna be so embarrassing. I'm not gonna have my great day here. And so I was not looking at him. I did not want any part of this man. I was like, just let me in. And then it was actually because the ring had set off the metal detector, and he had opened his jacket and showed them a little bit of it, and they were like, okay, yeah, that's cool, you can go ahead. And I didn't even think twice, didn't even think that was weird. I was just like, this man's gonna get kicked out, but I'm still going in. So I don't know. It's just,
Officer, I have something I need to do.
yeah. But I just think it's funny when I think about it. I was like, I didn't even think that was weird because that it truly just also shows that I wasn't expecting it at all to be whatever.
That's amazing. But that's definitely that's a Paris trip for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Paris trip for sure. And Disneyland, where else would you do other than Disneyland?
He was thinking the Eiffel Tower, which thank God he didn't, because actually the day we went to the Eiffel Tower, it was downpouring rain, which again, I like rain, so it's not a big deal. But he was like, that was the other option I had. I was like, well, I guess you picked the right day. I mean,
did you not notice so I don't know how tight per se jeans are for him, but did you not notice there was a box, or did he have it in his jacket the entire time?
I had not a clue, and he did it pretty early, which probably worked to his advantage. We took a bus there, and we both had fallen asleep because it was so early. Then once we got there, it was sunny out, which it wasn't. The weather wasn't bad the week we were there. It was actually pretty warm, but it wasn't very sunny the entire time we were there. So while it was sunny, I was like, we have to go take pictures of the castle. I was like, let's go. So I guess that because of that, and also I don't know what exactly decided in his head that this was the best moment to do it, but that was when he was and it's funny too because when he did it, again, totally not expecting it, he had asked another couple to take our picture. So he they had taken a couple of pictures, and I was like, can I see them? And then I was like, oh yeah, these are good. And he goes, can we take a couple more? I was like, a couple more? I was like, he never says stuff like that. I was like, no, we don't need a couple more. He's like, yeah, we do. I was like, okay. And then when he went to go do it, I was like, no, this is not happening. I honestly did. I don't even think I said yes when he asked. I just plucked the ring out. I was like, this is so awesome. I was my mind was blown. So yeah, it was a whirlwind of 30 seconds. I could not believe it. I was frozen. But oh man, I did pluck that ring out of that box so fast. I put it on. I was like, ah. But yeah.
Congrats, Seth. Good job. when I end up proposing, I'll come to you, since you know you do. So shout out to you, Seth. That's awesome. Well, congratulations, of course. I'm so happy for you guys. That's awesome, of course. And it was in France. So
yeah.
That's also the beauty of traveling, in the sense of it just makes it so much more memorable. It makes it so much more beautiful. And of course, it depends on if you can afford to travel, circumstances and stuff like that. But you guys were there. You planned a year in advance. You said, you're doing it. It's happening. We're doing this, and this. Mm-hmm. Then he stuck that in, of course. So that's great. That's awesome. So do you know, I didn't know this until I went to Europe. I didn't know that there were Disneylands in other parts of the world. Didn't know that.
I knew that there was Disneyland Paris, and I also knew about Disneyland Tokyo because I'm a big Disney fan. I love Disney World. So I was like, if there's any possible way that I can incorporate the mouse into my life, I would love to. And I mean, everything Tokyo is one place that I would just like love to go because I had seen like, I think they have like even like soap dispensers that when you like push it down, it like dispenses in the shape of like a Mickey Mouse head. And I'm like, that's just so cool. Like, I love that.
That's awesome. They're light years beyond us when it comes to technology. They really
Yeah.
are. They're like something so simple that would like draw in the United States. We're not doing it,
Yeah.
and we totally should.
Mhm.
So maybe you can make that like bucket list goals. Has like a married couple. You guys can like go to like conquer Disneylands across the world.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed.
Do that. We could do that. Not that I'm trying to force that, but maybe you should, like just to see, because that's also like a cool. There was somebody who I knew from Spain. She did that. She went to every single Disneyland by the age of 25.
That's awesome.
And I was like, how's that possible? But she did it. So it's a cool thing to be able to say. So
Yeah.
give it a try and let me know what happens. But was there anything else besides, of course, getting engaged in France that really stood out to you? Anything you saw or anything you experienced? Because France is there's so much you can do. Anything else that stood out for you, per se?
One of the big things was like the architecture of everything. I just felt like, I mean, when I look at New York and then I look at Paris, I mean, New York is unique in that nothing really like matches, but somehow it's still cohesive. But like in Paris, like all of the buildings basically matched and they were all so beautiful. Like I felt like no matter like in New York, maybe you have to plan your picture taking out a little bit more, but in Paris, I felt like you could just go to any street and like get a fabulous, beautiful picture. So I don't know. It was and it was again like a modern, like urban type area and everything about it I just remember thinking it was so beautiful and like now since coming back I feel like not to the extent that I am obsessed with New York, but I am
Mhm.
very obsessed with things that are Parisian. Um so I don't know, just the fashion, the art, like especially the art, I just appreciated that so much.
Awesome, awesome. You're an artsy person. You appreciate the finer artsy things.
Mhm.
Finer artsy things.
Yeah.
One of my like one of the moments that really opened my mind when I was in Europe was when I met somebody in my cohort who was an art major,
Mhm.
and she studied abroad in France before studying abroad in Spain, and she already had a job lined up in France to work at an art museum.
Mhm.
Bank. She was going to be making $100,000 with the equivalent of like a French currency, and
Wow.
I said to myself, "Wow, I should have been an artsy person." and
That's amazing. Yeah.
and I feel like sometimes, like in the States, I don't know how you feel about this, but like sometimes the arts are frowned upon in the
Mhm.
sense of like, oh, like it's not secure. Like, oh, like you have to grind for that. Oh, you have to know the right people. Like, oh, like you need to like go to a big city to get any kind of artwork done in the States, or you have to be special. You have to be unique.
Yeah.
Whereas like in Europe, they embrace that shit. Like they do. Like this girl went to Europe and did an internship and got hired by them right
Mhm.
before she even graduated, and she was in Spain just telling us all about it. Like I already have a job lined up as like an architecture,
Which
working
is
in art.
freaking awesome. Like, that to me is so inspiring because, like you said, like, yeah, when I think about what it's like in America versus what it's been like from what you just said, like, that's so cool. And also proves that I feel like here we still have quite a long way to go, but
Yes, yes. And one thing that somebody said on this podcast that stood out to me was
Mhm.
that we still are like a young country.
Mhm.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah,
Like
I didn't know about that either.
like we still technically are a fairly young country, like
Mhm.
1776. Like
True.
we're just getting to that 300 mark where Europe has been around for more than a few centuries, of course. So like their thinking is beyond ours in the sense of like when you have a skill, you embrace it and
Mhm.
you get paid for it.
Yeah.
Whereas here we're like work, infrastructure, labor, work your ass off, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So of course it depends on your environment, but you're an artsy person and all that matters. That's all that matters at the end of the day. That you know what you're doing. So awesome. So France was great.
Mhm.
And to wrap everything up, I would love to talk about your trip to Mexico, if that's cool.
Yeah.
So, so you were in Mexico, and I haven't been to Mexico yet, but I feel like everybody else in the world has. So what made you go there, and what were those first few days like in Mexico?
So we had gone because Seth had just graduated, and as his graduation present, he wanted to travel somewhere, and he had picked Mexico. So it was just him and I who went, and we were at um, it was in Cancun, and we mostly stayed at the resort. But there was one day that we did like a spa day, which like cracks me up to this day because it was one of those things that like we put our feet in one of those maybe this is weird, I don't know if this is like even allowed anymore. We put our feet in one of those like fish tanks, and they like had all those fish that like eat the skin off
Oh,
of.
they eat the skin, they clean you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we did that. That was like, and I was dying. I was like, I was like, I wanted to take my feet out because it was like, it literally does tickle so bad. And I was like, this is actually kind of like crazy. But so that was cool. Like that was one of the cool things we did at the resort. And then some other cool things that we ended up doing was we took a day trip to see Chichen Itza. I'm so bad at
I'm sorry.
I'm,
I'm just thinking of that. I'm sorry.
it was so, and imagine him doing it too, like manly Seth, like putting his feet in this like tank, and I was just like so weird. But yeah, we also saw Chichen Itza. Chichen Itza, I think that might be more how you say it. I just tell everybody I'm very American when I say anything, so excuse me if I say it very wrong. But that was awesome because we got to see I believe they were, I actually don't know if they were Aztec or Mayan ruins, but they were awesome, like very beautiful, and made me think of like aliens, which I also really like. And I don't know if it was the same day that we then took half of the day that then took us to like, I also don't remember what this one was called, but it was like a watering hole, and it was beautiful. Like in it was like this beautiful blue water. Wasn't necessarily like super clear that you could see to the bottom of this like watering hole, but it was like opaque. It was like opaque, but not. Anyways, it was so
Mhm.
cool, and that was one of the first times like once we were there, you could actually swim in it. So like if you wanted to, you could like go to the top of the thing and like jump in. And I had never done something like that before, and I had that day, and that was so stinking cool. Like Seth was like, "I'm surprised you didn't chicken out," but I was like, it was actually really awesome. I could not recommend like that day enough to people.
So the resort that you stayed at, did you stay there the entire time?
Yes, we did.
Right. And do you remember, would you happen to remember the name of the resort by chance?
I want to say it was something with the name Jade in it.
Okay.
But I don't remember everything because that trip, like, I'm better at trips where I plan them more so. And that trip, obviously, I had no part in. I was just like along for the ride.
Okay.
Um, but it was still like amazing, super cool. And like one of the second times I had stayed at like an all inclusive resort where like they had classes on how to make like Mexican things, and they had like fitness classes like every morning, yoga on the beach and stuff like that. And it was just like, when I think of that vacation, I think of that as both really fun and adventurous, but also very relaxing. Like I really felt like that one was like a vacation.
Nice.
Mhm.
Nice. And that was when we were juniors and Seth was a senior.
Yes.
Okay. Nice. Cool. That's awesome. And was there anything really that like you really liked the most? Like what was like your favorite memory per se of like being in Mexico?
I mean, definitely that sinkhole. Like I don't
That's
know
cool.
if it
Okay.
was a sinkhole or a water hole. I'm not sure, but it was so cool. Like it was just something that I never probably would have picked to do myself,
Yeah.
but like very out of my comfort zone, and so glad that I like did push myself to like do it, and it was so super awesome.
Sweet. Sweet. Well, you've been all over, and I'm sure you'll be continue to with you and Seth do a couple adventures, which is great. You have somebody along for the ride. Is there anywhere once the world calms down next year, hopefully, that you're trying to go to next, whether it's in New York or whether it's outside of the country? Do you have any goals per se of places you might want to go to?
The next really big vacation I want to plan is Italy and Greece. Those are like my two next big ones.
Okay, sweet. And what do you really hope to see in those two?
Especially in Italy, I really want to see the Colosseum. That seems freaking awesome. And
For
then
sure.
Greece, I don't know if it's Santorini with all of, like the white with like the blue like roofs and like right on like the coast. That
Yep.
looks beautiful too.
Yeah, Santorini for sure. Now, I did not know this, but apparently there's an on season and there's an off season
Hmm.
in Greece. So when you look into it, check out when the on season and off season is. Because
Yeah.
the first guest that I had on here, she went during the off season, and it's apparently like there's like a 6 month time period where there's on season, 6 month time period where there's off season.
Hmm.
I don't remember the months exactly, but she went in February. She went in February or March, something like that.
Hmm.
And that was when it was off season. So I think it's like during the summer times when that's when tourism is at its highest. So on season is when like people are constantly there. There's not enough like buses. There's not enough seats. So that's on season. Whereas off season, no one's there. But she went during off season, and it was the most amazing experience because she had Santorini all to herself.
That's cool. That's pretty
All
awesome.
to herself. And she was so baffled. She was like, why is nobody here?
Hmm.
Like we have all this to her. So rather than having to like wait in a line to go horseback riding through the
Hmm.
houses, rather than having to wait in a line to go to a restaurant, rather than having to wait in a line to go to the pink beaches, rather than having to wait, everything she could
Yeah.
just go. So whenever you guys plan on going, whether it's on season or off season, do your research on that.
Yeah.
Either one will be just as good. So
That's actually really good to know.
so check it out. And yeah, Greece was one place I really wanted to go. Greece was expensive at the time.
I
Like
haven't heard that.
Greece was expensive at the time. That would have been like 3 trips for me when I was in Europe.
Jeez.
But when you guys go, make the most of it. I would say don't have me dictate your life. But if you can be there for like at least 10 days, that would be phenomenal. So
Just for Greece or for both Italy and Greece?
honestly, just for Greece.
See,
Honestly,
that's like really good to also know because
yeah.
I feel that like what I wanted to do was do like a week in Italy and a week in Greece, but I'm feeling like that's probably not even nearly enough time for just Italy too. So I'm feeling like it's going to end up being where like one of them, I don't want to say gets cut for that trip, but basically like I feel like we're going to have to end up picking one or the other to really like get the most out of that experience.
Well, the beautiful thing about both of those countries is that either or, whether
Hmm.
you're in Greece for 10 days or in Italy for 10 days and then you subtract days from the other,
Hmm.
you're gonna have a mountain of things to do. Like
Yeah.
Italy itself, I always view as the tourism capital of the world.
Hmm.
That's my personal opinion, because no matter where you go in Italy, let's say like you and Seth just get dropped in the middle of Italy and you have
Yeah.
no idea where you are, you'll be fine. Because there's so many places you can go.
Yeah.
Whereas the same thing with Greece. Now, Greece, there are some places more so that are much more popular, but like with Italy, you can go anywhere and you'll be fine.
Hmm.
Whereas with Greece, there are very certain parts of Greece that like everybody goes to, that people go to tour, but in order to like observe the beauty and the views and like really understand what's going on,
Yeah.
I think you would have to spend a little. This is just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
You would have to spend a little bit more time in Greece, whereas Italy, you can be there for days and days on end, and you'll never have enough to look at. Like you'll never like. Let me wear that. You'll always have something to see.
Yeah.
There will always be something, whether it's the fountain, whether it's the Colosseum, whether it's all the beautiful trees and landscape, wherever you guys decide to go, you'll
Yeah.
have options. So have fun with it for sure. Have fun with it. And I can't wait to buy a plane ticket again.
Yes. Yeah.
So excited. Awesome. And let me think of what else I wanted to ask you. Okay, so you're thinking Italy, you're thinking Greece.
Hmm.
Anything inside of the country per se? Anything inside of the country that you really want to check out inside the USA?
This is not, I don't think this is really what you're asking, but we really want to go to Canada to see, I want to say it's Banff National Park. I really want to go there, but then also inside the USA, really want to go more west. I feel like I would love to see Arizona, Colorado, Seattle, Washington, Oregon, like all of those. Would love to just like, not necessarily the same trip, but would love to just see more of like the natural parts of like the USA, I guess. Because I don't know. I've been to some areas over there. I've been to like Nevada and whatever, but I really only have been mostly an East Coast girl. So I would just like to see like the differences over there.
Okay, sweet. Have you experienced the West Coast at all yet, like California or anything like that?
No.
That in itself is like another country.
Yeah.
So whenever you guys have that week vacation together, hop on to California.
Yes.
Gotta go there, especially if you're like a sun person. Then you can go to Disney World there.
Yes.
so much you can do, and that's my favorite part of this podcast is like the things that you don't think about, whether it's in country, out of country. You're learning those now.
Yes.
So, well, we're at that hour mark and touched on everything we needed to touch on. I think, unless there's anything else you want to talk about, I think we're good to go.
No, I mean, I can just talk about New York for a million years. So
Yes, for sure. And maybe next year after I get all my bookings, have you on again to talk about it. We'll see. And then maybe we can get Seth to come on this time as well.
Oh my goodness. Oh boy.
Seth to come on just to be there.
Yeah. Just to be like the silent presence in the back.
just to be there. You can speak too.
Okay.
To be there would be good. But thank you so much. You did so great. And if nothing else to say, we will wrap it up. And I hope you enjoyed being on here. And thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. All right.